Welcome to the Brand Clarity Podcast, hosted by Visions to Images and Susie Libertor. The Brand Clarity Podcast highlights several different topics, including entrepreneurship, franchises, and digital marketing trends. Visions to Images helps corporations and franchises with their branding, website, paid advertising, and digital marketing. Hello, everybody. Today I have Luke Bazely, president of Driverseat. He's a franchise owner, and I'm super excited to have him on. We were just talking right before this, talking about delegation and empowerment, as we're both very busy. So we'll throw in some of that stuff in a little bit. But first, I wanted to have him introduce who he is and what he's doing and how he got to where he is today.
Very cool. Well, thanks for having me on, Susie. This is it's always fun to have these conversations. Yeah, we started Driverseat about almost 11 years ago, and it was really just looking for a business opportunity, and really we knew we wanted to be in the franchising space, and so it was really about kind of determining what the business model would be that would allow us to franchise it, which is a little bit unconventional because typically you have a successful business that you want to scale, and then you decide that franchising is the vehicle for that. So we launched Driverseat as actually it was a driver for hire service originally. We would provide chauffeurs to drive people in their own cars, and that's what the service was for the first couple of years that we were in existence. Then we didn't really pivot, but we more evolved the business into what it is today, which is a passenger transportation service both in the leisure and the corporate space. We provide services in 7 to 24 passenger vehicles, really kind of carved out a niche. We become the transportation service of choice where, people want to book by the hour, book in advance, group outings. We've actually started to, I think, probably erode some of the limo market because, people want these larger vehicles, group transportation, but they don't want to pay for the prestige of the black car or the limo bus, that kind of thing. So yeah, we do a lot of wedding shuttles, wine tours, beer tours, airport transportation, that kind of thing. And so yeah, we've got several locations across 3 provinces, and we're also open in 4 of the states.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love hearing people's stories all the time. They always bring such joy to my face, especially after. So when did you officially start franchising? Like, how many years have you been?
We opened the first location in September of 2012, and we officially became a franchisor 5 months later. Once we registered all of our FDD and everything, and then we sold that first unit that we opened. We sold it that following April, so that first unit wasn't open a year.
Wow, incredible!
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And so from there, how quickly did you grow after that first location?
We grew, we had some early adopters, 2013, 2014, and late 2014 going into 2015, we had a massive growth spurt. It's kind of been just, moving up since then. But we've also had a lot of our current franchise owners have been expanding and picking up more territories and that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, if you look at the combination of licenses that we have in action right now. So, and I would refer to a license as some locations are still operating that driver for hire model, which was chauffeurs driving the client's vehicles. Others are operating the shuttle model, and some are operating both. And so we have over 60 active licenses or territories in operation. We've got 24, 25 owners. And we're bringing on new owners fairly regularly now. So we're entertaining a lot in the US, and growth in Canada is really strong right now.
Love it. So what has been your biggest struggle as a franchise over the years? Like, what have you had the most, like, oh my gosh, I can't get through this, the most problems with?
I think it would be similar for any new franchise brand. And I think today things are changing a little bit because of the emergence of a lot of the franchise sales organizations, and there's more brokers, and there's just a lot more discussion about franchising, and the market's becoming a lot more. I think it's getting easier for franchisors to scale today than it was even 10 years ago. In franchising, it takes you have to put the first 10 years in to continue evolving, continue to improve the coaching and the support and the tech stack and all the things. You're investing heavily in the first 10 years without really having the return through royalties, because it takes that much time to generate enough royalties to be self-sufficient. So that's the hard part. That's the hard part. We're fortunate now that we're through that, and we're on the cusp now of approaching and exceeding royalty self-sufficiency, and we've got lots of growth in the funnel, that there are lots of opportunity in the funnel right now. So I think that's been the hardest part. Is you want to do more, you want to invest in more software, you want to build better systems, but your investment level is going to be capped by the limited amount of royalties that you're bringing in those first years.
Absolutely. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Obviously, I'm in marketing. So what has worked successful for you as far as marketing goes? What have you really seen the most growth in?
We very much grew the brand on a guerrilla marketing tactic or strategy, and we really, our marketing strategy has 4 pillars to it. There's personal brand, which is everybody at our head office and all of our franchise owners making sure that they're proliferating their personal brand and making sure that people get to know them, because we all know in sales and marketing that people buy from those they know, like, and trust. And so if you've been working on the personal brand, you're developing relationships before people even come and buy from you. We have the employment brand, which is, the marketing that we do to attract great employees and chauffeurs and things like that. And we've got our services brand, which is, what are the services that we're offering, and educating the client on that, because we're kind of a unique model. There isn't really anybody that does exactly what we do. Right. And then we have the Driverseat brand that kind of encompasses all of it and talks more to the franchising opportunities. In our marketing approach, we've done a lot of guerrilla marketing. We want our franchise owners to be out in the community, attending chamber events, getting involved in the golf tournaments, building their network, and just making sure that they become really well known. And of course, digital marketing. It's interesting because as a franchise, I wouldn't say that consistency across all of our franchise locations has been our hallmark. It isn't. And that's been intentional, because we've been a content generation machine. So we've had our franchisees and our head office staff, and we've been pumping a lot of content out there. Now, I know that there's challenges with that, and I understand it. And anybody in your shoes would say, "Ooh, you're a franchise, the branding needs to be on point and it needs to be consistent across the board." I agree. And now we're at the point where we can really start to refine that and put more controls around it, and better training and better coaching and better tools and resources. I actually think that with the number of small businesses that fail in their first 1 to 5 years, what I think a lot of people are missing is the notion that my branding has to be perfect and my marketing has to be perfect and the messaging has to be perfect, but they don't know how to make money.
Right.
And so for us, it was, look, grind it out, hustle, make money, bring revenue in, and we will refine the marketing and the branding over the course of time. And that's really kind of the approach that we've taken. And it's worked for us.
I love it. And I think that is so important. And you're talking about how marketing is ever changing in a sense, right? Like I always say, I told somebody the other day, what worked yesterday might not work today. What worked a year ago might not work today. And we have to constantly be adapting and pivoting. Like that's just the nature of marketing and business in a whole. I totally agree with all of that and love that you guys have created such a great brand.
Thank you.
So let's talk about this delegation. When you got on the phone today, I was like, I have a million things to do today. And I can get them done. I have a whole weekend planned. However, are they going to get done? I need them to get done. But it's that delegation that we talked about. Should I let it go? Should I outsource? How do we do these things? And as a business owner, we can always sit here and eat at our heads and just say, oh, if I do it, I can get it done quicker and better. Right. And there's certain things that we can delegate and certain things we can't. Talk to me about that as a whole of how you delegate. What's the strengths and weaknesses? Like, tell me all about it.
Cool. Yeah. I'll start by saying that I'm not great at it.
I'm not either, so we're good.
And I struggle with it a lot for me, it's not because I think I can do it faster, better, stronger than other people. For me, it's because I'm a hands on the shovel in the ditch with everybody kind of person. And so that's where my passion lies, where I get excited and I like to be in the weeds. And the reality is that as an entrepreneur and as as the leader of the business, I can't be that for everybody. And in fact, I actually think it's a mindset, because the mindset is I'm actually taking away from their opportunity to grow and be stretched and to learn new things and to take on more responsibility. I'm actually taking that opportunity away when I don't delegate effectively. So for me, it's a couple of key pillars to it. One is that mindset of I have to find ways to delegate and elevate, and understand that when I initially delegate, that things aren't going to be done perfectly, mistakes are going to be made, and failure is inevitable, and that's okay. And as long as the person who's being delegated to understands that, failure is acceptable and mistakes are acceptable, and that we're going to work through it, we're going to grind it out. The first piece of it is that mindset. The second piece is always analyzing, is this thing that I'm about to do something that somebody else could be doing? Is it something that somebody else is capable of doing? Is it something that I could teach somebody to do? Or is this literally such a profoundly important piece to my business that I have to be the one with my hands on it? And that becomes the decision matrix of, no, I could teach somebody else how to do this. The moment that that's the answer, you need to teach somebody else how to do it. And we use a term in our office, which is delegate, don't abdicate. Right? Abdication is what we would kind of visualize as being a volleyball net, and we're going to just volley the ball over, and that's abdication. Like, this is your thing now. This is your problem.
Right.
Entrepreneurs do it because they don't really often know the right way to delegate. Entrepreneurs are not always the greatest people. They're not great at building process. Oftentimes, not great at building KPIs and scorecards and getting into the weeds on that stuff. Entrepreneurs are generally like, hey, this is a cool idea. Let's do this. And I think I can make money doing this. And so entrepreneurs are the worst for it in some cases, but also a manager with ego or a manager with insecurity will have trouble delegating. Right. And it's interesting. I was commenting on a LinkedIn post this morning on this very thing, which was, why are we not delegating and elevating? What's the challenge here? And so I think the delegate plus empower, elevate, make sure they understand, teach, what does success look like? What is the result? What does the result need to be? Inspect what you expect. Like, are they doing the thing the way that you want it done? Are they achieving that goal? Are they doing it consistently over the course of time? So the reality is that, yes, you 100% could do it faster yourself. There's no doubt about that. Because of all those things, because you need to first explain what you want done. You have to explain what success looks like. You have to explain all the things, and then audit and measure over the course of time, which means if you did it yourself, it would be done in a fraction of the amount of time. But to me, this would be the same as somebody saying, I'm rather than working out over the course of the week to stay healthy, I'm just going to pile it all on a Saturday and hope that works.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. You have to put the time in to get the results over time. You can't achieve results doing all the work yourself and expecting that because you can do it faster, that's the approach that you should take.
Absolutely. Hey there, I want to interrupt this episode with a quick message. If you're listening to this podcast episode and want to learn about branding your franchise or small business, then go to brandingbridge.com. That's branding-bridge.com. So I was laughing hysterically at the KPIs because, yes, I was in a mastermind and they were like, you need to track your KPIs and you need to set it all up and have SOPs. And yes, I agree that those are all important, but that's not my forte. I'm a creative and a thinker. I cannot do business systems, stuff like that. And the other thing too, when you were talking, is the time. We did a time audit, I think it was, or some kind of fancy word, where they would make me write down or type in what I was doing, like every minute of the day. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, what can you outsource? What is the most important, et cetera? And I mean, it was really interesting to see where you spend your time, because as business owners, we're all over the place. We're doing every and anything, right? And so it's like, how can we delegate, and what do we really need to delegate? Because, and is it trainable? Is there an SOP? Mm-hmm. Right? All of those questions have to come up. And then by the end of the day, like my mind is like, oh, that's a lot of business work, right? I just want to do the creative stuff and manage the clients and the teams and all of that. But we have to not forget about those things in order to grow. So I love that you touched on that as well.
And I think too, based on what you're telling me, if you haven't already read it, the book Traction is a great So, and you'll, now that I've said it to you, it'll be like, when you get a new car and then you can't stop seeing that same car all over the place. Now that I've mentioned Traction to you, you're going to hear people on podcasts talking about it. And so we're using Traction. It's called the EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System.
Okay. Yep.
And what it is a framework for small to medium sized businesses, not major large scale enterprise, but small to medium sized business. It's a framework for leadership, a framework for how to hold meetings, a framework for creating process and procedure and that kind of thing. And what's so interesting is, based on what you're telling me, is you're in the exact same boat as I am, where you're the visionary, which is I like to be creative. I like to manage big relationships. I'm great with people. I'm a great leader. I'm great at setting vision, all the things. But when it comes to sitting and writing an SOP on how to do this specific task, it's really not in my wheelhouse, and I'm not going to be good there. What every visionary needs in their business is an integrator. Yeah. And the integrator is the person that ties together all of your ideas and craziness and vision and all the things and funnels that down into something that a team can execute on. And so in essence, the integrator is insulating the visionary from the business. Yeah. And is a resource, like my integrator, Leanne, that works with me, I run everything past her. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm like, is this like a now thing? She says, no, we have a meeting in July.
Right.
Please don't get the team confused with this right now. You and I are having a meeting in July. We're going to talk about that. We're going to figure out whether it fits in the strategy and next year's plan. Right. Until then. And then she just gave me a scratch board to like, anytime you have these things, just go and put them on the scratch board. So we have this document that I just dump ideas and thoughts onto, and we're going to come together and meet on those. If it comes down to anybody in this office needing an SOP or needing like a procedure or a KPI or a scorecard, Leanne does that. I don't touch it. Right. It's not my forte. So this is an opportunity where, again, I have delegated and empowered Leanne to say, I need you to do this work. Leanne's really good at it. And so and we collaborate on that stuff. So I'm empowering her, I'm delegating to her, but she also knows she's got me as a resource to make sure that I'm vetting things and that it aligns with the vision.
I also I like everything you're saying. I like how you said, is this a now thing? Like that stood out to me the most, just because of the fact, like we as entrepreneurs, and I mean, I'm getting text messages as we're talking and I'm like, is this a now thing? Right? Like, do I need to respond now? Do I need to do this now? Right? So all of those things are factors in our mindset, entrepreneurs, because we are always thinking bigger and better. And I mean, I have so many ideas that I want to do, but then I'm also like, oh, is this a now thing or do I need to do client work? What is the client work that done? Right. So all of that, like, is this a now thing? Like, that's what I need to ask myself every single day now.
Absolutely.
Things, because if it's not a now thing and it's a later thing, push the now stuff out.
Yeah, there are some hacks there, right? Like if there's something that I absolutely have to do, it's a me thing. And it can be done in 30 seconds or a minute and a half or 3 minutes or less. I do it now. I just do it right then and there. Like I wouldn't stop this interview and jump onto that, but I would tackle those tasks right there and then, because if it's for sure a me thing and it's a quick one, I want to get it off my plate. There's a couple of different models that we use. One is the time matrix. I know it through the Stephen Covey organization, but it talks about urgency versus importance. Yeah. And so everything seems urgent. But you have to analyze whether or not it's urgent and important, which means, yes, I have to act on it now. It's a Q1, it's a quadrant one activity. Or is this important but not urgent? Those are equally as critical for you to work on and spend time on. And if everything is a now thing, if every text message and every input, every email, everything is a now thing, you never get to the quadrant 2 stuff. You never get to the proactive stuff. And it's tough because you do have to turn off that part of your brain that says, when something seemingly important hits my desk, I have to act on it now. And that's what makes me who I am and how strong I am and how I can get things done so quickly. You have to turn that part off. And it's really, really difficult.
I think this is like a different topic in a sense, because a lot of times when I talk with franchisors, we talk about their marketing and their business as a whole and stuff. But I think that this dives into something deeper. If you want to have a successful business and a franchise, you have to have more than just that, or have somebody to do it. Like you said, the integrator, like if you don't want to do it, get somebody to help you in that sense and delegate so you can be successful. So I really like this conversation and I'm glad we talked about it earlier so we can jump in. And I think that it's a hot topic. I mean, and so many people think, oh, I can just do it, right? And then something urgent comes in that needs that attention, and then that goes to the back burner, but they're not following through on it after the urgent stuff is done. I see it all the time, right? And I mean, I can do it sometimes too. We all do it. We're human. And that's why you need somebody, project manager, integrator, somebody to help you and guide you through all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they have to be a trusted advisor.
Yes.
And somebody that you can really lean on, because in order for you to effectively and properly give them what they need to be successful, particularly as an integrator in a business, they have to have some veto power. They have to have some decision-making capabilities. And one of the terms that I love using is you can't be half pregnant, right? And so you can't have an integrator there, but then question everything that they're doing and try to withdraw or hold back some of it, or like you kind of got to go all in, because that person needs to have the autonomy and the flexibility and the courage to be able to hold you accountable as the leader without fear of repercussion, right? We rumble a lot, like we have tough conversations a lot. And, Leanne and others on my team will say, Luke, this isn't correct, and it's not the way we should be doing it. Mm-hmm. And where you're going with this is not what we decided last week.
It's right. I think that's
right?
Nailed it, right? Like that's not what we talked about last week. That happens so many times, and you're like, wow. And then you got to pull yourself out of it.
Yeah, and you have to be, if you're an egotistical leader or somebody who fears that kind of environment, which, by the way, many are, and this is a hard thing. It's a really hard thing. Absolutely. Because you have to be humble and vulnerable enough to be sitting across from people that work for you, who are kind of telling you the straight goods. You have to be okay with that and be humble enough to say, I'm glad you guys brought this to me, because I didn't realize I was doing that, and I didn't realize I was creating confusion. Right. Help me. What can I do to exercise my strength here, and what can I do to make the system the situation better? And it's when you have a safe environment where people can speak openly, honestly, that's where speed happens. That's where you get. There's another great book called The Speed of Trust, and it's like when there's trust in the team. Yes. Particularly when it comes to the leader and the executive team or the integrator, when there's trust, things happen very quickly.
Well, and I think that's true for marketing, as going off on this kind of topic, is if there's not trust from the marketing company and they don't have that, and that personal customer nurture, all of that stuff, that's not going to convert, and it's going to be much slower. When you have that trust factor built in, it's going to be much more faster, like you stated. So I think that kind of goes, like, there's plenty of ways to look at it like that, in that kind of a way.
Well, I think your marketing and branding reflects your culture, and one way or another, it's going to reflect your culture, whether you want it to or not. So if your culture is one of where there's a lack of trust, or one where there's animosity, or there's anything going on, it'll eventually or inevitably come out some way in the branding. And I think you're right that when my team says to me, like, how do you want this to look? How do you want it to feel? How do you want it to sound? The answer is quite easy. I want somebody who's seeing our information, who's seeing our branding, who's seeing our marketing. I want them to feel like you'd feel like being in this office.
Right.
What are the feelings that we convey here? Well, it's one of trust. It's one of nurturing. It's one of openness, fun, laughter, creativity, innovation, wanting to help people, wanting to do the right things. These are all the ways that I would describe us as a team and as a culture. So then that's what needs to come through in the branding.
100%. I love it. Mm-hmm. Awesome. So if anybody wants to learn more about you, where can they find out some information?
My favorite place to collaborate with people is on LinkedIn. So Luke Bazely, all one word, is my username, LukeBazely. Yeah, love connecting with people there.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Cheers. It was great to be on.
Thank you, everybody, for listening in on today's Brand Clarity episode with Susie Liberatore. 2 things. First and foremost, please, if you liked this episode, please subscribe and leave some positive reviews. Also, don't forget to sign up for Stop Sending Your Customers to the Competition and get my insider secrets to compelling branding that converts. You can find that at branding-bridge.com. It's a free workbook for you to check out right now, all of the branding techniques and strategies that I use for my paying clients.